My name is Brian Seliber. I'm a small business banker with M&T. There are a lot of banks around here, and a lot of them have a very good reputation. I like to think M&T is one of them. This is the only place I've worked to date since I got out of school a bunch of years back. I started with the bank in the retail side, so in the brick and mortar branch network that you probably picture when you hear of a bank, but you in all likelihood don't have to go there as much as you did years ago. And as things change and technology evolves, there are different ways that people are using the bank, and that's just for regular individuals, regular civilians like me and some of the people in this room that have your basic bank account. You might own a home and have a mortgage. You might have a credit card through your bank, and that's what our retail side of the house does. What my team does. I'm based right up the road in Rockville, but we cover the whole DC market. My team works with small business owners, and that covers, it's a broad term. It covers everything from folks that are just in the initial startup phase to all the way up to about $25 million in annual revenue. So we use the term small kind of with quotations because those are pretty big companies. If you are a company like Under Armour or Utz Potato Chips, those international brands that also happen to work with M&T, that's a different world, what we call our commercial group. That's $25 million and above, but a lot of the companies that you and I know and learn about around here, a lot of your local service providers, a lot of the small businesses, the restaurants that you eat at and use, that's in my world. So it's a blast to learn the backgrounds and the stories to people that go out on their own, whether they have a military background or a civilian background, whether they went to college or not. One thing I love about this industry or this group of industries is that it doesn't matter. It's the great equalizer that it doesn't really matter what your background is. It takes a certain set of skills and a certain motor, I've learned, to go out on your own, give up the relative safety and reliability of a constant paycheck, working in corporate America or something like that, to go out on your own and start a new idea, whether it's a franchise or not. So it's a little background into why I've gotten so interested in this line of work and why I've come to admire the clients that I get to work with. So a little bit of what a business banker can do for you. And of course it sounds specific because it is. If you're a regular person like me, you don't need a business banker. And if you have a very simple business, and by that I don't mean easy, but simple as in you don't have a lot of expenses. You two over there that said you have a website design and streaming business. One of my favorite clients is a young man about my age. His folks were both military, and he does website and graphic design. He and I work together because we become business friends, and we can be referral sources for each other, because to be clear, my clients need his services and vice versa. He doesn't need a lot from me in my professional capacity. He is very unlikely to need to borrow money for any big project, because for him, as he's taught me, because I'm no expert in the industry, but my friend has made me at least know enough to be dangerous, he's operating off of brain power. He needs a high-powered computer and a couple of notebooks. The rest is just him. He doesn't have a lot of employees. He doesn't have a lot of sophisticated payment structures going on. He gets paid by check or somebody hands him cash, and that's about it. And until he gets to the next level, it could totally change. It could evolve to something on a different scope. For now, he enjoys being his own boss and just being a one-man shop. So people like him, that's a good example where he needs a bank. He needs a business checking account, maybe a savings account, maybe a business credit card to earn a few reward points or what have you. He doesn't need a lot from me directly. But then another example, one of my truly favorite clients is a retired Marine, or if anybody was in the Marines, I think he's taught me you're just not retired. He is a Marine, is what I've learned, and he had a decorated career. He was honorably discharged after several tours of duty in the Middle East, and he went to work, based in the Mid-Atlantic, he went to work for a regional construction firm, and he kind of specialized in roofing and siding. He came home one day and told his wife, who was pregnant, "I am tired of working at this company, I'm just going to do it myself." And she said, "That's great. I'll remind you I'm pregnant with our second child, and I haven't worked in 2 years because of our first child. So you remember that, right?" And he's like, "Yes, I did. And I took that all into consideration, but I kind of quit today, and this is what we're doing. I believe in myself. I believe in Yeah, that's what I've learned from people like him. It takes a certain motor and a certain level of courage and determination and belief in oneself for him to go out on such a limb. Of course, he could always go back to a company like that. What I learned about him when I met him at a networking group, not so different from this, and I asked him to meet, because that's what a business banker, getting back to where I started, that's what a business banker does. We have to get to know folks who have taken that plunge, whether it's brand new and they're just thinking about it now, or if they want to get to the next level. They've established themselves, they've got a landscaping business with a fleet of trucks they've paid for by themselves, and they've got a handful of employees, and they see the next county over as ready for them to do a hostile takeover and take over that area as well. They're going to need to borrow money, so they're going to need to talk to a bank. So it behooves somebody like me and my teammates to get to know these people, their story, their background, their professional resume, what makes them really good and really qualified and really credit worthy for the bank to decide ultimately if it wants to make a loan or establish some kind of credit system with that client. So getting back to this gentleman, he went out on his own. He just took the plunge because he believed in himself. He knew he could do it better than the people he was working for. When I got to his home office, which was just his living room, his home personal computer was also his work headquarters. He had a bunch of gold stars on, or the equivalent of that, he had certificates saying that he was the employee of the month at his old firm, and it was pretty much every month in a row for quite some time. That made it clear just from being there in his office. He said, "Sure, come on over, I'll tell you about myself. You can tell me how you can help me." I appreciate he was open-minded about it, because it's not obvious what business banker can do. So he told me, this has been my background, this is how long I worked at that company, here's where I'm at now. He had already built a $1.2 million a year company just with a couple of guys, couple of trucks, that he pretty much paid for by himself. And he said, "I want to take it to the next level. It's good timing. How can you help me perhaps finance new trucks, new payroll requirements with the new people I'm bringing in? What can you do for me?" So I appreciated the question. That was a perfect example. Somebody like that, a contractor who out on his own wanted to take it to the next level, although he's got a history already of a couple of years in business. In that case, we were successful. My team and me as the main contact person, I had to get a big summary put together of his background, his business plan, where he'd worked, what his credit score, but more than that, what his credit scenario looked like, what his family was shaped like, and what his plans were going forward. And we were successful setting him up with a pretty sizable line of credit that he could use when the time came. It's not something he had to pay much for until he actually needed to use it. If there was a good opportunity to buy a new vehicle or hire new people or bid on a big project. And it was an incredible, eye-opening experience. That was one of the first, deals I was a part of. It was several years back where I realized that there is a tremendous market for folks who are doing their own thing, and as long as they're receptive to working with other people, and he was at least trusting enough that I knew more about banking than he did, which I did. He knew a lot more about roofing and being a business owner than I did. So that collaborative effort, him asking me questions, asking for advice and guidance, how to fill out applications in the way that made sense, and how to structure his bookkeeping and his payroll and all of his business plans so it made sense to a bank. Because it's not always intuitive. It's up to people like me and my supervisors and my teammates to make it approachable and understandable for somebody who is a layperson. If you didn't work at a bank, you wouldn't understand what all the products and services are for, who they're best for, because how could you?